Good evening and welcome to today's event, Her Right to Learn, Educating Girls in Afghanistan. I'm Georgia Hall, Interim Executive Director of the Wellesley Centers for Women, and I'd like to thank you all for joining us for this timely conversation with human rights activist and WCW International Scholar in Residence, Pashtana Durrani, about her organization LEARN Afghan. And Pashtana is joined in conversation by international development economist and LEARN board member, Courtenay Cabot Venton. For those of you who are interested in learning more about WCW, I'll just give you a little bit of an overview. We're a research and action institute here at Wellesley College. Our mission is to advance gender equality, social justice, and human well-being through high-quality research, theory, and action programs. For 50 years, more than 50 years now, we've been focused on shaping a better world for women, girls, families, and communities in all their diversity here and around the world. We are proud that Pashtana's work is strongly focused on shaping a better world, particularly for women and children. And whenever I get caught in an elevator and have to quickly respond to a question about where I work or where I'm from, et cetera, I always just say I'm at Wellesley Centers for Women at Wellesley College, and we inspire greatness. And then that usually makes people want to know more, and they want to get off the elevator and talk some more. But in any case, we're really proud of the work that we do here at Wellesley College and, of course, of Pashtana's work. Education for girls and women in Afghanistan is under threat, but women are showing up for each other through LEARN, a grassroots organization that Pashtana founded in 2018 that provides education and healthcare to girls through innovative online platforms. And despite restrictions on women's rights, LEARN has impacted 6 million learners via radio programs, 2 million through a SIM card-based learning initiative, and 5,300 girls in person across 24 provinces in Afghanistan. We're thrilled that you're able to join us for a screening of a short video about LEARN, followed by an in-depth discussion about Pashtana's personal and professional journey and the significance of educational technology in her work and how she sees the situation on the ground in Afghanistan. And we'll end the program tonight with a Q&A and also a reception that we'll provide. I want to now just introduce you in a little bit more detail to our guests, and first just talking about Pashtana is an Afghan human rights activist, education advocate, and the founder of LEARN. She's an international scholar in residence here at WCW at Wellesley College, where she continues her mission to expand access to education and empower Afghan women and children and girls. A few additional stats about LEARN. The organization has educated about 10,000 boys and girls, and it has 15 active schools in provinces of Afghanistan. It's trained more than 80 teachers in digital literacy and trained 700 girls in menstrual hygiene management. It educates over 1,500 students daily in underground and community-based schools. A bold and influential voice, and I particularly want to say bold, Pashtana has been featured on BBC, CNN, PBS, using her platform to advocate for Afghan girls and women. Her groundbreaking work has earned global recognition, including honors from the Malala Fund, BBC, 100 Women, and the UN Young Activists Award. And just last week, I had the pleasure of receiving an email announcing that Pashtana was a winner of the Janetta Sagan Award, which is given by Amnesty International. Amazing. Amnesty International recognizes and assists women who are working to protect the liberty and lives of women and children in areas where human rights violations are widespread. Courtenay Cabot Venton is an international development economist and the founder and executive director of the Share Trust, an organization whose mission is to support community-driven collective action globally. She's worked with a wide range of UN agencies as well as large government funders and other donors to evaluate the relative returns of social and environmental interventions, contributing to an evidence base for what works and what doesn't when it comes to reducing poverty worldwide. Courtenay's work to strengthen women's groups like self-help groups through building the research and the evidence base, as well as supporting organizations led by local leaders. And she's on the board of LEARN Afghan. So we're going to start with a screening, a short video that Pashtana is bringing along with her on her worldwide tour. And then, Courtney, I'll leave it up to you to start the conversation with Pashtana. Thank you so much, and here we go.
Imagine a country where going to school means risking your life. This is the reality for countless Afghan girls. Since August 2021, over 1.5 million girls have been denied access to secondary education in Afghanistan. More than 18 million women and girls are living under gender apartheid laws.
امکان نداره بی تاثیر باشه وقتی که آقا پسرهای همسن و سالهای خود می‌بینی و دختر خانم‌های مثل خود می‌بینی وقتی که روی یک مدار می‌گذاری می‌بینی عادلانه نیست.
That's where LEARN Afghan steps in as a beacon of hope. Founded in 2018 by girls' rights activist Pashtana Durrani, this nonprofit organization ensures that Afghan girls can still access education, defying the current ban imposed by the Taliban regime. This leading Afghan-led organization delivers education through innovative and culturally rooted solutions.
چون اونا خیلی علاقمند است وقتی ما علاقمندی از اونا رو می‌بینیم باز بسیار خوشحال میشیم که اون فکر به ذهن من
Standing strong against systemic educational exclusion, LEARN provides education to over 1,500 Afghan girls and women from grades 7 to 12 across 15 provinces through underground schools and innovative educational programs. LEARN's brave teachers operate covertly in Taliban-controlled areas, ensuring that Afghan girls continue their education, even in the darkest times.
کوشش میکنن که مثلا زنها خانش نشین شود یا دخترها بی‌سوادتر شود. ما همیشه فکر میکنیم که باید کوشش کنیم که از این وضعیت
As a grassroots Afghan-led project, LEARN establishes its schools in response to community demand, with local families ensuring the safety of both students and teachers. LEARN offers a supportive environment where girls can learn, dream big, and grow, fueled by the hope and agency that education brings. In LEARN's underground schools, students follow the official Afghan national curriculum, enabling them to apply for university scholarships abroad while preserving and nurturing their cultural identity. LEARN also provides women and girls with English lessons, journalism clubs, and STEM programs.
وقتی که این شرایط دیدم واقعا دلم خیلی زیاد بر دخترها سوخت برای اینکه اینا این نصف از جامعه رو حذف کردن و برای دخترها اجازه نمیدن تحصیل کنن اون دخترها رویاهای خیلی زیاد دارن.
Blending low and high tech, LEARN develops video and radio programs, uses SIM cards, offline learning apps, and Starlink-supported satellite connections to bring education to the most remote and underserved areas.
In a country like Afghanistan with no internet and electricity, what is your alternative? You have to make it work with whatever resources you have available.
Leveraging new technologies for good, LEARN empowers girls with courses in computing, AI, and robotics, equipping them with the knowledge to master cutting-edge technological advancements. LEARN students are equipped with skills that enable them to earn an income, protect them from forced marriage, and elevate their status within their communities and families. Ultimately, these young women are prepared to contribute to the country's future social and economic development.
We're going to need teachers, doctors, engineers, architects, scientists, midwives, anyone and everyone to run the economy. I think the most important thing is you have to engage on solutions.
LEARN has already empowered over 10,000 students and awarded hundreds of diplomas, each one representing a young woman empowered to shape her own destiny and contribute to a brighter future for Afghanistan. But sustaining this work requires global solidarity. You can be part of this incredible journey. By investing in LEARN, you can change the lives of hundreds of Afghan girls.
سوال میکنم و میگم نه قوی‌تر از این چیزی که بخوای حالا جا بزنی و به درس‌ها فکر کنی. ترجیح میدم به امیدواریا فکر کنم و
Together, we can empower them to turn their dreams into reality and build a brighter Afghanistan, where education is not a distant dream or a privilege. Education is a right.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I am beyond thrilled to get to interview my very dear friend Pashtana, who is a force of nature, and I'm really excited that all of you are here and get to know her a little bit more if you don't know her already. I'll give you a little more of the history of how I met Pashtana in a minute, but first, I want to just ask you, that video was incredible and so beautiful, and I know that the work that you are doing is so important. Would you just first start by telling us a little bit about why you founded LEARN Afghanistan and a little bit about the world tour that you're on at the minute? You're always on a world tour, but the world tour that you're on at the minute, showing this video and why that's so important to your work.
First of all, thank you so much, everyone, for showing up. I really appreciate it. This is my home tour, so I was like, I need people to show up and watch this. So thank you for showing up. I really appreciate it. And I am so glad that you're here doing this with me. So a little about why I founded LEARN, and then I'm going to get into the world tour. I founded LEARN not out of inspiration. I'm going to be very honest. I founded LEARN out of spite. That's very me, that's very Pashtana of me, and I did that because I was like, you know what, I'm mad at everyone, so I'm going to do this on my own. I grew up as a refugee in Pakistan, and growing up, I thought education is accessible everywhere. I thought that was something that everybody had access to. The reason was because my father and my aunt, my father's sister, they made it possible for all the girls in our village. They would just come and show up to school, and they would study in our house, and I was like, oh my God, that's very normal. The minute I go back home, I first land in an internally displaced persons camp, which you would know of all people, where the place is safe, my tribe is safe, but the only thing we didn't have access to is a school, and this is Spin Boldak. For those of you who are from Afghanistan, Spin Boldak is fairly a safe region. Maruf was not a safe region. And I kept on asking myself, I was like, why is that? But even then, I was like, you know, whatever. I was an emo teenager who wanted to get to Kabul so badly. I was like, whatever. My cousin, she was studying, and she told me how much she wanted to be a doctor and how she couldn't be a doctor because there was no school and no certification. And I remember going to Kabul and asking this minister, I was like, oh, you need to build school. And he's like, no, we don't. You guys marry off women early. And I think that just, like, you know, struck a chord inside me. I was like, you know what? I see you, and I'm going to go on this journey. So I wanted to educate, basically, Durrani, and before that, like, I got into a fight with her family, I got into a fight with my family. My father supported me, so I was like, you know what, I'm going to get her into a school. We get her into a school, she's already getting educated. By the end of the year, we moved the whole family, by the way, to the city, which us village people, we don't like moving to the city, tiny apartments whatsoever. So we move. And she's in school, and in a week, she's like, you know what, I'm not going to go to the school. I'm like, how dare you? You cannot do this to us. What is the whole family going to say? And then she's like, it's because I feel pressured when I go to school. I feel like I don't fit in. I feel like people make fun of me, and I feel like teachers don't empathize with my situation. And it took me a whole week to figure it out that no school was perfect for her because she came from a region where war was ongoing, and she was going to a school where kids have been in school for fairly all their life. She couldn't just grasp lessons in 45 minutes chunks. She couldn't just sit in exams and be done with exams just like normal people. For her, learning was a very different pathway. And that was happening to all the kids from rural regions where the war was ongoing. So I took it upon myself, and I went to my dad. I was like, you know what, I need like $2,000. I'm going to give it back to you. Never did. I I'm like, I need to do this. And my mom's like, okay. He was very skeptical. And I registered LEARN, and I found allies. I started working in Afghanistan, and I focused on it. So it was definitely not out of like, oh, I saw the light, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this. It was definitely, I was like, I'm mad at you. I'm going to get back at you. The funny thing is, I did get back at that minister. That minister is so out of work. That minister has nothing going on. And me, on the other hand, we're making this happen in Afghanistan right now. So I'm like, I guess we are winning after 7 years.
Here. I'll clap to that.
Thank you. Thank you. So a little about the world tour. I have been going around the world, and just to make sure that everybody knows, I have almost went to 30 countries, represented WCW in 30 countries, and LEARN to talk about advocacy efforts, to talk about all these things. But I feel like there has never been a strategic approach towards how to uplift the ban on girls' education in Afghanistan. So I take it upon myself again, out of spite for Taliban now, to go around the world, countries that have funded, educated, and supported Afghan women in one way or the other, or have supported the fall of Afghanistan in one way or the other, hold them accountable, force the Taliban to uplift the ban. And that's the reason we're doing the world tour and going around the world showcasing this, the reality of Afghan girls, because, oh God, every time I watch this, I'm like, oh my God, these are my students. I need to do better, you know? So imagine all these people who have not seen all the good things Afghan girls can do. I want to educate them on that. I want to make sure that they are the ones uplifting the ban and advocating for that. It's their right. And last but not the least, ensure that it's a sustainable approach, because we are not a humanitarian project anymore. It has to be a sustainable access and accessible right. So all of that.
That is amazing. And I'm very grateful to you for doing all of your world tours. You have more energy than I do. Would you also just give all of us an update on the current context in Afghanistan? Because we all have watched in horror as the Taliban continues to withdraw and erode the rights for women and girls. So would you just tell us, I know there have been things like internet bans that have made your work really hard. Would you just tell us some of like what is it like to be a girl in Afghanistan right now, particularly in the last 6 months with the eroding rights?
Thank you for asking that question. I feel like one thing we need to understand is people talk about the crisis in Afghanistan, but those are like, the crisis is actually a life lived in Afghanistan for young girls. This morning I woke up at 7 a.m. The first call I had with someone was more about, okay, the situation in Mazar Sharif. For those of you who don't know, Mazar Sharif just was hit by an earthquake like 2 days ago. And this, by the way, is the second earthquake happening in Afghanistan in this, a quarter alone. A few weeks ago, we had Courtenay emergency. Now, in normal countries, when something like this happens, your first answer is, okay, you're a nonprofit, you respond, emergency response. But here's the sad thing, the sad reality. When an earthquake happens in Afghanistan, women are the last to be rescued because there is no body-to-body touching of na-mahram. So if you are a male rescuer, you cannot rescue a woman. You cannot rescue a young girl. You can very well rescue a man, you can rescue a boy, and then they are supposed to rescue the women. In Courtenay, again, that happened like a few weeks ago where women were not rescued. 9 women died in delivery because they just were not rescued. We had to send one chaperone with each medical aid or clinician or doctor because the doctor herself was not allowed to run those clinics. So I had to go out of my way, pay, beg, and ask these people to go as their chaperones, like the fathers or the brothers or the husbands of these women to this region. That's just crisis for you. Now, if you're a normal girl, coming here, by the way, is not allowed in Afghanistan right now. You showing your face, you celebrating something is not allowed in Afghanistan. You going out to a walk in the park is not allowed in Afghanistan right now. When I talk about the right to educate, when I talk about the right to exist, Afghan women right now on the land of Afghanistan, which by the way is an ancient country and has accepted Afghan women as, an equal existence, is not right now allowed. I, as an Afghan woman, am not allowed to practice any of my rights. The right to educate, the right to go out, the right to take a walk, the right to be with my family, the right to even visit a graveyard. None of those are allowed in Afghanistan. The right to own my own religious freedom. I cannot recite Holy Quran. That's Afghanistan for you right now, for girls and women.
Will you then just tie some of that context to what that means for you, trying to educate girls in Afghanistan, which is, in this context, frankly, quite terrifying to think of what you put yourself at risk to do. How are you reaching these girls to be able to provide them with education? And kind of what does that look like on a day-to-day on the ground for the girls that you're working with in Afghanistan?
I mean, it can go on from, there are times where I was like, where we have stayed up in the middle of the night because someone got arrested, because there was a teacher who was just teaching math and chemistry in Helmand like last year, and she got arrested, and my cousin was arrested, and I would get pictures on daily basis of them getting beaten up and abused by the Taliban. And I was asked to come back to Afghanistan and show up for my court trial. That's teaching in Afghanistan right now. That's a crime in Afghanistan right now. Apart from that, when you're running schools, you're not running just schools, which, by the way, in very other different contexts is very hard. But in our context, we have to do it underground. So you have to do it in somebody's basement. You have to do it in yes, literally underground. You have to do it in hospitals. You have to do it in backyards of people. You have to do it in any space that is gifted to you by the community and you're welcomed into. That's running school for you in Afghanistan, which I feel like sometimes I feel so badass. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so good at this. Like, look at me. And then other times I'm like, oh my God, I'm having a meltdown. I cannot do this anymore. But here's the one thing I don't want to dismiss at all, and I really want to highlight is, I get to do this from the safety of WCW and Wellesley. The teachers in Afghanistan, they show up physically to these spaces every day. The girls, they show up physically to these spaces. Me here, I have the right to do whatever I want. They don't have any right in written form. So if they're caught, they're caught. And they still show up. They still do all of that. That's running school, and that's the current situation in Afghanistan. It's not easy, but I also don't want to say one of those things like, oh, it's impossible, because these women are making it possible. You just saw.
It's amazing. And that's one thing that I've certainly learned in my work is that it's very easy to see the headlines on the news and think of people as victims. And there is no doubt that what people have to live under in Afghanistan is terrible. But you have to always look for the resilience, because people find ways to do everything. And for me, Afghanistan's been one of the most sharp examples of women who know their rights, and maybe they have to hide it, but they are not giving up anytime soon, and you are certainly an example of that. Would you speak a little bit more to, you're running LEARN, you're also here as a fellow at Wellesley and working as well with the Women's Center. And I know that Wellesley also played a really critical role in getting you out of Afghanistan when the Taliban took over. Guys, for those of you who don't know Pashtana, you see why I fell in love with her when I first met her. She told me that she thinks her life's calling is to be a comedian, which pretty much fits.
I seriously do.
But she has literally narrowly dodged a bomb that the Taliban left for her at a speaking engagement where her friends and colleagues were killed and injured. She had 13 organizations, including the US government, evacuate her from Afghanistan because the Taliban was threatening her life. She has stories of sitting in hotel rooms negotiating with the Pakistani Secret Service, who pinned her as a woman on her own and accused her of being a US spy. You can imagine how that conversation went, and Pashtana won that one too. So remind me again then what your name means that your dad gave you. Pashtana means?
So Pashtana basically to the ethnicity, it's Pata Shegara Turanang. But if you translate it into English, it roughly comes to brave warrior or graceful warrior, which I'm like, yes, I am.
Indeed. And I think your dad, we'll come on to your dad in a minute, but I think your dad knew exactly what this first child was going to become. But would you just describe a little bit more how Wellesley played that role in helping to get you out of Afghanistan and how important that was, but also how you kind of marry all of your many hats that you wear here on campus here?
Thank you. I feel like Wellesley doesn't get a lot of credit and WCW doesn't get enough credit for A, I was rescued, B, I was a big brat and they still accepted me, and C, I feel like I found my sacred spiritual home at WCW, and I think for some of you who have worked in WCW would resonate with that a lot. When I was in Afghanistan, I became person of interest the day Afghanistan fell, because my face was plastered across more than 250 news channels. Everybody wanted to talk to me, but nobody wanted to take me. Nobody wanted, because I didn't want to be a refugee. It's not a bad thing, but I didn't want to be that because I grew up being that and I was discriminated against very much. So for me, it was more like, I'm not going to go anywhere that doesn't accept me the way I am. And trust me, if you watch all of those videos, I'm like angry all the time. So Amna Nawaz, Jessica Yan, two of the people who saved me from becoming a headless body, they found Wellesley Centers for Women. Amna contacted Laili Maparayan, who is, I just was telling Kajal, I was telling her, Laili was my work dad. I would go to her for all the stuff, all the advice, all the tough things that I had to do. And Laili made it happen for me. WCW made it happen for me. They didn't make me another refugee that was going to be in the waiting for the next 2-3 years. I didn't have to be processed in Albania, Texas, or even like in Qatar. I landed in WCW right after the fall of Afghanistan in just 1 month. And this is, by the way, me getting arrested, me getting interrogated, me getting smuggled across 3 countries, me getting missing, me going missing, my sister going missing, a lot of drama, by the way, so much drama. And WCW offered me that space. The minute I came in, I was able to do my work on the second day. I was able to pick up from where I had left off. And I think WCW doesn't get enough credit for that. I really want to highlight that. And that was made possible because a lot of people are still trying to find their footing. And these are amazing people from Afghanistan. They have done amazing stuff. But because they couldn't find that sacred space, they're still trying to find their footing. And for me, at 4 years in, we have done so much. We are literally impacting millions of people that the UN agencies cannot, that the former government didn't. By the way, because of WCW, we're also one of the largest organizations right now impacting women and girls in Afghanistan. One of the largest when it comes to education. Thank you. Which is, by the way, impossible because there was also another call at the UN in this morning, and it's practically impossible for them to bring in their women into their own compound that they are paying to work for them. And we have the biggest operation and footprint in Afghanistan. No other organization has that. So for me, I think ending up at WCW definitely was a spiritual calling, I would say, sacred home place. And then at the same time, when I ended up, I was a visiting fellow. So Laili was like, do whatever you want. And I was like, thank you. And I took that assignment and ran with it. And I, since then, have been doing whatever I have wanted. I have, as I said, represented WCW in more than 30 forums and countries. WCW has been engaged in policy, in impact projects, in sustainability, by the way, also the first time where we're looking at education more through sustainability lens. That has never happened in crisis intervention. And now countries like Yemen and Syria are looking up to us to understand how they can sustain their operations. So international scholar in residence now, I still get to do what I want to do, and WCW gives me that protection, and I get to work from the airport safely. I go to other countries where sometimes I'm bullied and other times I'm interrogated. I get to walk away from that because I'm a scholar at WCW, so I get to have that safety. I get to enjoy that safety. And all these girls and women that you were just seeing, most of them I met because I am able to travel back and forth. So all of that is over to Wellesley.
That's huge. It's absolutely huge. And I wish that we could find ways for more and more people to have that. Will you tell me a little bit about your dad? Because one of the things I love about your story is that not only are you a passionate advocate for women and girls, but your dad, despite all of the sort of cultural entrenchment around patriarchy in Afghanistan, raised you from day one to believe in yourself, to believe in education. So will you just tell us a little bit about him? Because I know he was a huge part of your life.
He definitely was. He was, I like to call him a feminist man who was raised by a feminist mother, by the way. He was made feminist because of her. So my grandmother, I like to think of her as this pioneer feminist leader in our tribe, in my family. She was such a baddie, by the way. Her name was Khan Bibi, which, by the way, Khan means leader. So lady leader. Some say I look like her. Yeah. So she was someone who, when my grandfather got married the second time, which, by the way, is very normal in Muslim countries, and in Afghanistan is pretty normal. He got married the second time because my grandma got into an argument with him. And he brings in the new bride, and she's like, oh my God, you thought I'm just gonna sit here and be okay with this? She told all her kids, grown-up kids, by the way, she's like, we're leaving now. All her grown-up kids followed her. Kids who were like 25, 26, 27, they all followed her. She leaves the home, she goes to her brother supports her, by the way, another baddie feminist. She becomes sick, she recovers. She goes from being this person who had never had to work, even house chores, because she was the granddaughter of semi-royal family of Mehrabis, to working daily jobs, by the way, 3 jobs of laundry, of cleaning houses and stuff, just so she can educate all her kids. She does that for almost 20 years. She educates all her sons. She educates my last aunt, who ran the school later on. And she makes sure that this whole intensity of like the way she raised her sons is, by the way, by telling them is, it doesn't make a difference if you're a man or a woman. You need access to your opportunity and you can do wonders. You can raise almost 7, 8 sons if you want. So she does that. And then my father, because he was the younger, he was almost the 4th member and he grew up with her a lot. So he was very impacted by how women could move mountains if they wanted. So he grew up with that impact. He sees his sister being married off. She's married off. She becomes a victim of domestic violence. And he was the first man, by the way, who became a Khan later on, a tribal chief, who sanctioned my Amma or my aunt's divorce, which was unheard of, which is something that a lot of people are not okay with. And he sanctioned it. He supported her. He got her out of that abusive marriage. My aunt later on became the teacher that ran the school in the refugee camp. My aunt is also someone that impacted him a lot. And after that, my dad was someone who didn't wait up until he had a daughter to be a feminist. He started running the school way before I was born. He supported his sister way before I was born. He looked up to his mother way before I was born. We were the only refugee community that literally had older women go to people's homes, force their kids, young girls, to be sent to our house. And my father would check in with them every Friday. He would make tea. It would be a little girl's time. He would be part of it. And then he would talk to all these women and ask them why is somebody not sending their daughters to school, if that was happening. So that is the kind of man I grew up around. And also he was a very soft-spoken person. He was not one of those like when you see his pictures, he's this tribal man, all with his turban and everything. But then he would be doing fake tea party with me, while people were waiting for him. He would just talk to me like you talk to a child. I remember this one time. He took us out and we were all eating ice cream and I'm gulping down my ice cream and he's like, this guy comes up to him and he's like, why do you bring all these women out? Because I was fairly older and I was not wearing a scarf. And my father looks at him and he's like, she's not a woman, she's a child. He just neutralized the conversation to a level where you cannot look at a young girl and just call her a woman and just remove her from the society. That's a child, and that can enjoy any freedom that they want, just like the boy child can. So that was the kind of father I grew up with. Yeah. I used to bully him a lot. He let me bully him a lot. He also used to call me that you are like my mother, which I am, so yes, I really did that.
Indeed. And I loved also how he would, so Pashtana comes from one of the larger landholding and powerful clans, do you call them clans? Tribe. In Afghanistan, and so her father would take her out to all of the meetings with the elders, such that when her father passed during COVID, you ended up for a period of time before your brother came of age being the Khan. Yeah. How's that?
It was fun. I still get to bully my brother in some of the conversations where I know the older person and I'm like, I know him, I can persuade him, and my brother's like, I don't like this conversation anymore. Some of the elders that I met, I was in that video also doing a tribal meeting. So my father is from the Barakzai tribe, which has reigned over Afghanistan for almost 250 years through the Mahmadzai dynasty, and we're from Maruf, so my family has been very known in that space. So I do recognize that privilege when I talk about stuff like that. So when my father passed away, because I was so famous within my community, everyone was like, oh no, you should be the one. And all my cousins were so jealous. And I was like, yes, I'm gonna be, which I had to be because I was like, they're all dumb. So I think so. I think younger men are fairly, I don't know. So anyways, I was educated for my role for 13 years. So I rightfully got there. And since then, up until like even 2 years ago, I was the one leading the whole movement. Now I have transitioned more into an elder space, which is very funny for a 27-year-old. But it is what it is. And now my brother gets to have some FaceTime with all these people. So the reason I get to do all of that is because it's of the soft power influence that I cultivated, or because there was a male ally who saw me as eligible for that position, which has never happened.
Yes, yeah. I love that. And I think for me, a lot of what this always reminds me of is that it's, as I said a few minutes ago, it's so easy to look at other parts of the world and just apply labels, right? When you think of Afghanistan, you think of horrible rights for women and girls, you think of the Taliban, you think of Osama bin Laden, you think of all these things, right? And it's so important to remember that there are hundreds of thousands of Pashtanas fighting every day to find those small spaces where they can regain their power. We actually have a project through my organization in Afghanistan where we've been working with women's groups. And I remember when we first started working with them and funding them, they said to us, and it was right after the Taliban had taken over, within like 4 or 5 months, and they said to us, one of the things that we would most like you to fund us for is to have human rights curriculum seminars with the elders in our community. And I couldn't sleep that night because I was thinking to myself, my God, do I fund these women to organize these men, including the Taliban, to have meetings to remind them of what their rights are, knowing how much danger that puts them in? And I sat up all night, and I woke up the next morning and I said, who am I to be deciding what risks they take, what risks they don't take. If that's what they say they want and need, then who am I to not get behind it and to offer whatever support I can? As you said, like, people get arrested, people get detained, people disappear. All I can do is be the strongest ally that I can and stand in solidarity with those women. And I think it's, we actually got a video from the women like a year ago where they had started doing agricultural activities to earn their own income. And they had convinced all of the males in their community to give them a huge piece of land. And they sent us this video saying, this is the land that we have negotiated, and this is now ours to plant, and we get to keep the revenue. And again, I just thought, like, it's so easy to forget the incredible human spirit. And there's actually, and also I just love your dad, because like you said, there are male allies. It's so easy to sort of label Afghanistan as full of patriarchal men. And there are male allies who have opened up spaces, which I think is incredible. So I want to also ask you a more sort of personal question. How do you keep going? Because I know, having known you for a few years now, that you are so good at making us all laugh and keeping us lighthearted. And I also know that you are regularly, consistently, methodically assaulted on social media for showing up on news reports, for speaking out about what's happening in Afghanistan. I've had a couple of calls with you where you've said, I'm not going to turn on my camera today because I'm not having a great day. I'll talk to you, but I don't want to be seen. So I know this also takes its toll on you. So you just, like, when you have those days, where do you find, now I'm getting teared up, where do you find that strength to just, like, get up out of bed and do another day? Like, what drives you, what motivates you, and how do you turn that around? I'm trying not to make you cry.
You talk about your daughter, Esme. We have been friends now for over 4 years, and I have seen Courtenay talk about Esme in this different light.
This is my 20-year-old daughter.
In a very different light. I have seen Esme when she used to go to high school. Yeah. And now she's in college, and she's going to be a physicist. Uh-huh. And I've seen her grow in Courtenay's talk. I've seen how Courtenay talks about how Esme is moving now to another country, how she wants to do different things, how she's now exploring like STEM subjects. When I am a mother and when I have a daughter, I want to be able to tell her, oh, I did all my best to ensure that women and young girls in my country of her age were able to go to school. I want to do that for my mother. I want to do that for my father. I want to do that for the girls right now in Afghanistan, because, oh my God, we have sacrificed so much as womankind, just women all around the world. And whatever is happening in Afghanistan right now, by the way, has happened to women at different places all over the world. For that spirit of being a woman, I can just not sit back and let people bully me and be like, oh, this is no more my business. I was offered, by the way, a very good job like 2 days ago when I was in Thailand. But the reality is, it's not like if I don't do it, nobody else is going to do it. There are amazing women all over Afghanistan, and they're doing so much better. But if I don't do my part as an Afghan woman, I'm failing my community, I'm failing the people around me, because I know a way around it. I know the way through it. And I'm very, very big believer of the fact that Afghanistan as an ancient country, we have been around for 5,000 years. The women of Afghanistan have been famous for leadership for 3,000 years. Good God, we have defied Alexander the Great. Our women did. His wife, Roxana or Roxana, who is not mentioned in the western part of the world, was the first Bactrian princess who told Alexander, you're not God, sit down. That's Afghan women, that's Afghanistan for you. And I come from that land. I cannot just, a few men who have this weird idea of how Afghan women should be, tell me what to be, who to be, or let them control the narrative. We're so much more, we're so powerful, we own the land. And it's a holy, sacred land that has respected, admired, and appreciated its women and daughters. So yes, it's hard. But you know what is hard? Me being on that call in the morning where I was talking to a young girl, her name is Pashtana. She was telling me that she has applied to more than 17 grad schools this year alone. And she has been accepted in all of them, and she has got all the scholarships, but she has not gotten a single visa, and she's stuck in Pakistan. That's hard. This me getting dressed up and talk about stuff, it's not hard. It's the easy part. My students going to school where they don't have a future, where when they talk to me, they're like, will they go to, where they will go to a college, or will they be doctors? That's hard. Where my teachers have to look up to me for certain things, where people rely on things, those are hard. This, I think, is the easy part. I sometimes get very flustered when I'm talking about, when I'm trying to talk on their behalf. But this morning, the girls that I was talking to, it was almost 35 girls from UNFPA that have been stuck in Pakistan, and they wanted a way out, and I was talking to them. And all of them were, the one thing that they had to say was, you're out, make sure your voice is so loud that everybody can hear you. And that makes me want to be so loud, scream at the top of my lungs, make sure I bully anyone who defies or denies that.
So I'm going to ask you one more question, and then we'll do question and answer, because I'm sure lots of people want to ask some Pashtana questions. I guess, when we hear you talk, it is always so profound, and I'm so grateful that I've gotten to spend, our friendship has been short 4 years, especially in the history of Afghanistan, which is 5,000 years, but anyway. We sort of had an instantaneous closeness, which I've just adored, and your spirit is undoubtedly infectious. But it's so hard, always, as us. I mean, you all can predict what I'm going to ask. Sitting here in this room, how on earth do we support, do we stand in solidarity? What do you want people to take away from this evening? Because I think, when I think about you, I can come and drink tea with you. I can offer you a meal at my home. We can go and eat out everything that they have at Tate on a very regular basis in the name of work and board conversations. So I can offer friendship, and obviously through my work, I know how important, even though it feels so simple, just being in solidarity with women around the world who are facing unspeakable, it's endless, right? What would you want this room to kind of take away in terms of when they go home and they say, oh my gosh, I heard this amazing woman speak, how do I exist in the world knowing all of that and helping? What would you recommend? What would you offer?
I also want to say that Tate is run because of us, because we go to that place way too much. I think I'm contributing to the local business a little too much. Building on what you just said, I have to say that as womankind, it's not about color, it's not about age, it's not about our geographies. Just as womankind, as male allies, I can see the two girls that I've been talking to. Their father have been showing up with them forever to the Harvard panels, to the WCW panels, and they're Afghan girls who just resettled in the US almost a year ago. And their father shows up with them everywhere. That's male allyship. I see Paul showing up. That's male allyship. I see Alam showing up. That's male allyship. He's also a fellow Afghan. I think for us as women, we need to educate the men around us. I think that has to be the first thing. We need to educate the men around us to ensure that they know what is happening to women around the world. Not only just Afghanistan, I think the women in Sudan. A lot of people are not talking about it, which is a sad reality. We need to talk about that. Women in Syria right now, women in Yemen, women in Somalia, Sudan, Gaza, everywhere. Those are all women suffering right now, and we don't get to talk about it as much. So educating the people around us, not only just men, but younger kids, younger girls, that's a responsibility. That's just a conscious responsibility, not even a social one. Moving on from that, I think the second thing you can do, if you get to know about people's work, like LEARN, any organization, go to them, talk to them, ask them how can you volunteer, spread the word, share it in your networks. Maybe there's something that they need, maybe they need a volunteer. So for example, at LEARN, we need English volunteers right now because all our girls want to learn English. So we need volunteers. Maybe you can spare an hour. Beyond that, if you still feel like, oh, you want to do something different, reach out to these organizations, learn about the crises around the world, educate yourself, share about the stuff that you just got educated on, and ensure that circles continue about those organizations, about those works. That's how you build sisterhood and this fellowship around each other. So I think that would be the most important thing. And I'm just also going to say one more thing is, please share and learn more about WCW's work because we do amazing stuff. I want to highlight Kate's work and her new book that just came out. This Happened to Me by Kate. I read the book called The Body Keeps the Score, and I read about Kate's case in it, and I couldn't believe. And here's the funny thing. After almost a decade of being in pain, from the Taliban bomb blast that happened, by the way, in 2017. And I got my collarbone or shoulder fractured, which I, by the way, never went to the doctor. So they're like, oh, by the way, this is also messed up and it didn't mend well. I read those two books and now I'm on my healing journey. And WCW makes that possible. So learn that. It helps your daily day. This is the first week in my whole decade that I can walk around without a pain in my shoulder. With that being said, the second thing is sheer trust. I think the sheer trust is work around the world and the belief in women's circles. I mean, there are amazing stories that I can talk about and keep on going on. They have supported circles in Bangladesh, for Rohingya, for refugees. For people that are forgotten, Rohingya refugees are, by the way, forgotten around the world. And they support everyone. All those people in crisis that are forgotten. So learn about that. And then again, of course, learn and volunteer and support our girls because they're cool baddies. So yeah, I think those are the sort of things that you could do and support and bring that sisterhood together and male allyship.
Yes, I love that you call that out. All right, I want to turn it over to all of you because I know that you'll have a million questions. I think we've got a few people with mics that are going to come around. Do you want to just raise your hands if you want to ask a question? Or
Yeah, we really encourage folks to think about the wonderful conversation that's happened and questions that you might have. And please feel free. We have some students with microphones to offer. And yeah, let's have an opportunity to ask. Over here.
Hi.
Hello.
I wanted to ask, what do you believe, like, currently is the biggest issue in organizing, like, in getting young girls to go to school or call in to school?
In Afghanistan?
Yeah.
The biggest is, I think, the ban on girls' education. I probably missed that because I was like, oh, everybody knows about it. But the fact that Afghanistan the current regime has banned girls' education beyond grade 6 for the past 4 years. And this was one of the, the first bans that they did. And it has been in practice widely since then. So the biggest problem is that constitutionally, girls are not allowed. although the 1920 Constitution of Afghanistan, the 1960 Constitution of Afghanistan says all people of Afghanistan have the right to education up until undergrad for free, whereas the current regime says girls beyond grade 6 cannot access education. So I think that the legality of it, that you can see your brother going to grade 7 public school, but you're not allowed to be in that school. That's the first issue. And then apart from that, Afghanistan has been destabilized for the past 40 years. So the fact that we don't have buildings, the fact that we don't have trained people, the fact that there's so much brain drain happening as we speak, because why would you stay in a country where you cannot practice any of your rights? All of that contributes to illiteracy in Afghanistan. And last but not the least, the corruption that happened in the past 2 decades and the corruption that is happening right now. Because again, education is seen as a humanitarian project rather than a lifelong investment in the nation. So all of those contribute towards something like that, and especially if you're assigned a gender of being a young girl, you just don't have that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Other questions people have?
Yes, please.
Hi, so I was curious about if you see LEARN expanding, or do you see it as a model that can be used in other places? Like you mentioned Syria, Iran, and also my family's from Bangladesh, where like a lot of young women or like a lot of young girls get married very young, like they're forced into these marriages, and they never even, like education isn't even seen as an option. So in places like that, how can you see like LEARN being used as like a model or something that can be expanded into different countries in conflict?
That's a very good question, and I have an answer for that. Yes, we're expanding. We're hoping to expand to at least countries that are post-conflict or are hosting refugees. So, right, or current conflict, by the way. So we're looking into Syria right now. We're looking into Yemen. We're looking into Iraq. We are also looking into the Myanmar refugees as we speak. And then at the same time, we're also looking into Sudan and Somalia. Hoping things change in Sudan. So yes, it's, again, I'm not gonna say that my model is the best model, because honestly, if you go to LEARN's website, you will not see one model. You will see us working on satellite solutions. You'll see us working on in-person classes. You'll see us working on radio programs, SIM card programs, anything and everything. Because the goal is mass education. Educate kids, young girls, their fathers, their mothers, their grandparents. Radio is something grandparents listen to in my country, and I'm like, yes, educate them. So yes, that's something that even we are looking into Morocco right now and hope to do the same thing, a similar thing, even in Libya. These are all crisis spaces. So that's something that we hope to expand, especially with our AI intervention. Even developed nations like Japan right now seeks support from Afghanistan and our girls, by the way, at LEARN, to develop solutions for them. So yeah, keep an eye out for those opportunities, but that's happening.
And if I can just add one thing that I also love about your model, which I think was really powerful for me, is that a lot of the education programs that I work with, rightly, try to make sure that like the people who would never have access to education, who don't even have basic literacy, have access to that. And one of the things that Pashtana has also really educated me about is that she really sees a big part of her job as also trying to like educate the girls who will be the leaders of Afghanistan in 20 years, because we know that all these ups and downs come and go, and it's so important to remember that like when things stabilize, we want to see a whole sea of incredible women who are ready to take over leadership, and I think that's an incredibly interesting part of your model as well.
Thank you. Yes, and the whole point is, we tend to forget women have soft power all around the world. In my capacity, I don't know how long I can continue doing what I do. I may never end up seeing Afghanistan being free and independent and being run by women, or maybe I will see it in 10 years, who knows. But for us to pass the torch, we have to continue developing that, not only in Afghanistan, but in other spaces too. And that's one of my biggest goals is all my students, they need to be good in leadership spaces. They need to be good at talking. They need to be able to put their best foot forward so that next time, we are never invaded. Next time, when something like that happens, no international agency makes a humanitarian poverty case out of us. we get to design our schools. We get to talk about our stuff. We're an independent nation because we have resources. We just don't get to be our own leaders at times.
Thank you. Other questions? Kelly. Oh, hang on for the mic for 1 second. Thank you.
Hello. What do the girls do who aren't in school?
Good question. So somebody might have just closed a deal with the biggest SIM card company in Afghanistan. Somebody. To ensure that all the 2,000 girls that we are going to graduate by the end of this year and the girls who are graduating from grade 12 end up in mental health care, so become therapists, and their education will be paid for. Second thing would be them becoming data scientists, that is again paid for. Third would be them becoming AI inventors, innovators in that space. I want to make Afghanistan the next AI industry space where the young girls are the one leading it. So when they hold that kind of power, they get to negotiate their rights with any kind of regime. So we just closed the biggest deal this morning, and it's almost 12 million people use that SIM card company. So that's, that has been, by the way, in the making for the past 4 years for me. I've been trying to find a way around it. Why the mental health care piece? Because Afghanistan, again, is one of the countries with highest female suicide rates right now, with highest mental health crisis right now. So we want to ensure that if we're providing jobs, those are in spaces that actually are catering to the needs of the people in Afghanistan. So if you're going to graduate from LEARN Afghanistan's school beyond grade 12, you're going to end up as a therapist, a data scientist, an AI innovator, or you're going to end up working in that space, one or the other, yeah.
And what about the girls that get no education? What does their day consist of?
Mass education, again, I'm not going to claim that I'm a one-stop shop for everyone. There are girls who are still being married off. I'm going to give you a very good example of our own student being married off, being sold off. And I didn't know up until, then I was told, and I had to buy her back, which if you're explaining it to someone in the US, they're going to be like, what were you doing? Like, what is happening here? But I literally had to buy her back. Her dad had passed away because of post-war complications, and she was sold off for $2,000 because her dad has made that loan. And we had to buy her back, pay that money back, and now she's on a job. So you either end up having that future or you're married off as a child bride who's going to be a teenage, mother. And that is happening to millions of refugees that are returning and girls in Afghanistan. So I don't want to make it all flowery and gloomy. That is a reality of Afghanistan too.
We have a question in the back. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your incredible stories, Pashtana. I wanted to make a quick plug for your book, Last to Eat, Last to Learn, because there's many more great stories from Pashtana in there. How do you think about, when you talk to people, like the importance of storytelling and telling these individual girls' stories versus just the statistics?
My mother used to call me storyteller when I was growing up. It's also because, as I said, Afghanistan being an ancient nation, when I was growing up, I didn't listen to the stories of Snow White or Cinderella. I grew up with my father, who was like, you need to learn about Malala Yousafzai, who literally fought the British, when she was 16, and she fought them when she was getting married, and it was so dramatic, and I used to listen to that, and my dad was like, you have to be like her, and I was like, when am I getting married to do that? So that was that's the kind of story. He would talk about Zarghuna, who is the grandmother of the nation and the mother to the father of the nation, and he would talk about how she would talk to the troops or the forces and how she would look after the people who were left behind when the father of the nation would go out on these stuff. And I used to think to myself, I was like, oh my God, I come from these women. I literally come from the land of these women. I share a tribe, a bloodline with them. So I can be great in many ways. But again, to those stories impacted me in a way that I never saw myself being othered. I never saw myself being, I have to be the first. There were so many of them. So storytelling is so important for young girls when they see themselves in books, when they see themselves being written in history, when they see themselves being memorized in the history and in the, like, you know, the poetry of the nation, you literally can build a nation off of that. So I grew up on that, and that's what I want to pass down to all my students, to my daughters, to anyone. And that's one of the reasons I used to hate so much when I had to tell someone like 1,500 students, 2,000 students, because every student is going through their own struggle. Zala, who is an amazing, amazing student from Kandahar, her dad, I was paying him the money for DSA, and he was like, we don't need that. And I asked him why, and he's like, if you ask us to come here 10 times more, and this is another country, by the way, in August, we would still come, because I want to show up for my daughter. And this is a tailor. He's a tailor. He doesn't have a lot of money. He would show up for that. So I want to tell that story so many times that people know Zala's dad doing that again and again. I want to tell Mina's story so many times that people get to know that these are people of Afghanistan. So I believe in storytelling, just short form.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that question, Julie. Yes.
I have a question. You mentioned your family quite a lot. You're Durrani.
Yes.
Was that an advantage with the administration, the Taliban administration, or not? I mean, for someone, my wife and I spent quite a lot of time in Afghanistan, so we knew Durrani, so we knew the impact that name has. Has it been an advantage or not for you?
It has been a very big drawback right now because the Durranis are at war with the Panchpais, and because we supported the past 2 decades, and we have always been on the side of the monarchy, then transitioned into a more constitution beyond 2002. For those of you who know Afghanistan, we have supported more of like constitution in the past 2 decades. So for me, the biggest drawback was the minute the Taliban came into power, they were like, oh, she's his daughter. She's a Durrani. And even to now, to this date, when I go on interviews with the Taliban leaders on TV, international media, they scream at me because they're like, oh, you Kandaris, or you Durranis. And I just think about it, I'm like, yeah, but you're brothers, you know, like you guys are the ones who are in cahoots with each other. So it definitely has been a drawback. But I have to also highlight the fact that it also gives me so much immense, privilege. I get to walk in rooms where a lot of other non-Durrani women wouldn't be welcomed. I would be welcomed into spaces. I'm able to open schools in Afghanistan because of that name. So yes, I carry that privilege, but the drawback has been, oh my God, I'm in exile because of that. So both of those. But thank you for that question.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm wondering if you have collaborated at all with the School of Leadership Afghanistan, because I know that they just launched SOLA X, and any collaboration with Shabana. Thank you.
Oh my God. I was at dinner with her like 2 weeks ago. Amazing people. I love her husband. She's amazing. They made amazing, amazing dinner for me, by the way. They feed me most of the homemade food that I get to eat. Not so far, there is no collaboration, but we do promote SOLA X's products with our own students, because I think those are amazing solutions and should be promoted all over Afghanistan. And I also want to say one thing very clearly. LEARN alone, Pashtana alone cannot solve the crisis of Afghanistan. We need SOLA, we need LEARN, we need all kinds of solutions to make it work. So maybe there might be a partnership in the future, who knows? But for now, we fully support and promote their work. Yeah, thank you for that.
We have a question in the back. Yeah, thank you.
Hi. So I work with a Nepali organization remotely, and we also have like the same goal of educating like young Nepali schoolgirls in like remote areas. And we have also something very similar to LEARN, where we have volunteers kind of like have video conferencing like teach-ins or like lessons for the students. So they're able to get like a more broad education. And I was just wondering if you had like any advice or advice for like organizations or like projects that are like in the early stages of like just trying to get money for like equipment, and just like how we can, like as a student too, like how we can kind of help with like the fundraising, and just like how did LEARN do it, or how did you do it, you know, when LEARN was like
I
the early
have so
stages?
many notes for you. So many. This is like right where I am very good at what I do. So I definitely think young people might have more answers to the current crisis. So it definitely is worthy of them doing more homework, more research, asking local communities, investing in local community research. Apart from that, I think your goal definitely is who is at the center of this. If it's young girls, they should be asked all the right questions, but also like what they have to say about the situation. Last but not the least, fundraising definitely is a Pandora box for everyone. Like, it's not an easy thing to do, especially young people. I have seen so much ageism. It's not taken with authority. You're not accepted to do stuff. Even when you're asked, you're always the token in some rooms. So I would definitely say, make sure you, at the core of it, you have the student at the center of it. You highlight their work, you highlight their stories, keep at it, even if it's slow. Consistency is more important than big chunks. And then there's going to be time where one donor is going to take a leap of faith and decide it for you. For us, it has been six schools up until this June. And now we have more than 25 provinces footprint in just 3 months because somebody took a leap of faith in us, right? And it's going to be 34 schools in the next quarter. So I definitely think that it's all possible, but consistency. And last but not the least, I volunteer my time to support young people with fundraising. So if you're interested, you're more than welcome to sign up for your hours with me, and I'm happy to mentor you.
Thank you.
Mentorship combined with a little comedy.
Probably have time for just one last question if there is one. Yes, right here. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Courtenay Cabot and I'm a student at Malden High School. So we have been working on an interview about Afghan women, the current situation in Afghanistan. You know, it's pretty bad. I want to ask Pashtana a question about our documentary. So how can we raise awareness and make sure that Afghan girls' voices are heard?
I think, because I talked to your sister last week, I think you're doing a great job. I also want to say, make sure when you're bringing in testimonies, ensure that the testimonies, the names are anonymized, but they're represented continuously. Ensure you write about it. You talk to your friends in high school. Make a club about it. Educate people about it. I'm watching Minx, by the way, on Netflix, for those of you who haven't. It's eye-opening, but the way they're educating girls, the way they're educating people on feminism, is important. So come up with innovative ways when you are talking about a situation like this. Bring in testimonies from the school that you and your sister is running right now. Talk to your aunts that your sister told me are teaching at these schools. They should write some stuff and poetry or testimonies or even interviews. Start a podcast, I would say, There are multiple ways to do different things, and you're more than welcome for, to reach out to people like me or any other activists and highlight your work, because collaboration is the key. So I would say find your niche and then just hold on to it, but make sure that you're bringing in testimonies from Afghanistan because the end goal is to represent them. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you both for this wonderful conversation. I mentioned before my statement in the elevator about we inspire greatness, and Pashtana, you inspire greatness, and thank you for all your work, and our hope is that WCW and Wellesley College can continue to support you in the work that you do. So we invite all of you for our reception, and I know that Courtney and Pashtana will be happy to take some other questions from you. So thank you so much for coming tonight, and please enjoy the refreshments. Thank you.